The cello was already playing when Vera opened her gate, which was strange because there was no cello for miles. She stood a moment on the wet flagstones, keys in hand, on her way to somewhere that suddenly mattered less. The fog had come down in the night, the first thick fog of autumn, the kind that swallows the church tower and gives back only its bell. The lane, the hedges, the neighbour's roof, all of it had been taken away and replaced with soft grey wool. And through that wool, from somewhere past the edge of town, came music. Not a radio. A radio doesn't breathe. This rose and settled and rose again, patient as someone rocking a child. A low, round, wooden sound that seemed to come out of the ground as much as out of the air. Vera knew every noise this town made. The bakery shutters at 6, the school bell, the harbour chain, old Mr. Anders' cough on his morning walk. In 50 years she had catalogued them all without meaning to. This one was new, or very, very old. She put the keys back in her pocket. Somewhere that mattered less could wait until tomorrow. The music was coming from the old orchard. Everyone in town could have told her that nobody went there anymore. The gate at the end of Miller's Lane had rusted into a lean, and the grass grew through its bars like the earth holding a coat closed. Beyond it, rows of ancient apple trees faded into the fog. The first row clear, the second row a suggestion, the third row only a rumour. Vera stepped through the gap where a hinge used to be. The world changed underfoot. Cobbles gave way to soaked meadow grass, and the town's small morning sounds fell away behind her, muffled by the fog, until all that remained was the crunch and give of damp earth, her own breath, and the cello, somewhere ahead, drawing its slow lines through the grey. The smell reached her next. Overripe apples, sweet and heavy, fruit nobody had picked, going soft in the grass. Fermenting quietly into something like cider, something like memory. She should have felt foolish. A grown woman climbing through a ruined gate to chase a sound. But the music didn't feel like something she was chasing. It felt, she thought, like something that had been waiting. Inside the orchard, the fog did something strange to the music. It took the sound apart and handed it back from every direction at once. A phrase would swell to her left, and when she turned, the answering note came from behind her. The trees themselves seemed to pass the melody along, branch to branch, the way they passed the fog. Twice she stopped completely, turned in a slow circle among the gnarled black trunks, and simply listened, unable to say whether the cellist was 50 steps away or 500. The trees were old, in the way that only forgotten things get old. Bark slick with moisture, dark as wet iron. Branches wrestled by decades of wind into shapes like handwriting. Beneath them, windfall apples lay in the silver grass, gold going brown, each one wearing a thin coat of dew. Vera walked without hurry now. The fog made hurry pointless, and something about the music made it feel impolite. Deeper in, the rows lost their order. Younger trees had seeded themselves in the aisles, and the orchard had gone from planted thing to grown thing, a place with its own opinions. The melody deepened, and she followed. The ladder was the first sign that this had once been somebody's whole world. It leaned into an apple tree, the way ladders do when someone means to come back. Rungs furred with moss now, side rails gone silver grey, wood and tree slowly becoming one thing. A few steps on, she found a stack of harvest baskets, collapsing into each other, their willow weave undone by 20 winters. A pruning saw hung on a nail, rusted into lace. And on the broadest trunk in the row, at the height where a hand would rest, old carvings had healed into the bark. Soft shapes, half closed by the years, the way a tree slowly holds letters until they become only a scar in the shape of tenderness. Vera laid her palm against the wet bark and felt what she could not read. Somebody had climbed these ladders every autumn. Somebody had filled those baskets, counted them, complained about the rain, and been proud anyway. This had all been tended once, loved, on a schedule. The cello, closer now, played on through the fog. And it occurred to Vera that the music didn't sound lost at all. It sounded like remembering. She caught herself hunting the sound and stopped. Some things won't be caught. They can only be received. There was a fallen trunk at the edge of a small clearing, mercifully dry beneath its canopy of fog. Vera sat, hands in the pockets of her red coat, the only warm colour in the whole grey world, and let the orchard decide. The music went on, gentle and unhurried. Now that she had stopped moving, it stopped moving too. It settled into one direction, one distance, one voice, as if the fog had only scattered it for the walkers and kept it whole for the ones who sat still. Low phrases, over and over, with small changes. The way the sea repeats itself, the way a mother hums the same line until the child sleeps. Music not performed but kept, the way you keep a fire going. Her breathing slowed to its tempo. The dew ticked off the branches. An apple let go somewhere, landing soft in the grass, and the cello made room for it and continued. When the melody finally rose and turned, it felt like being asked, kindly, whether she was coming. Vera stood and walked toward it. At the centre of the orchard, in a circle of trees older than the town's oldest stories, an old man sat on a kitchen chair, playing a cello to the fog. He wore a rough grey sweater and fingerless gloves. His hair was white as the mist. The cello was the colour of dark honey, wood worn pale where a hand had travelled the neck 100,000 times. Around his chair the grass was pressed flat in a neat circle, the mark of a chair set down in the same place many, many mornings. His eyes were closed. He did not startle when her footsteps hushed through the grass. He only tilted his head, the way one does when a second sound joins an expected room, and kept playing to the end of the phrase. "There's a dry log to your left. The one on the right bites." Vera sat on the dry log to her left. The music continued, as though her arrival had been written into it all along. One more listener in a clearing that she began to see had never really been empty. The trees stood close around them, like an audience that had already heard everything and stayed anyway. When the piece ended, he let the last note lean against the fog until the fog took its weight. Then he opened his eyes, and they were friendly, and not surprised at all. "You heard it from town. The fog carries it down the hill. Once a year, maybe twice, it lines up just right." "Who are you playing for?" Because there was no one else to ask. He looked around at the trees the way other men look at photographs. "My wife planted the young rose. 40 years of autumns she picked with the ladder you probably passed. She hummed while she worked, always the same line, off-key in the same place. The trees got used to it. She's been gone 6 years now. But an orchard doesn't stop listening just because the singer stops. So on the first fog of every autumn, I bring down her line, and I mind the humming for her." He said it the way a man reports the weather. Not sad. Kept. "The off-key part, too?" For the first time, he smiled. "Especially that. That's the part they know her by." He played one more, her line, Vera understood now, with its lovely wrong note faithfully in place, and the orchard held it the way the ground holds rain. The fog had begun its slow surrender. Between the far trunks, light came through in long, pale shafts, and the fruit in the grass turned from grey gold to gold. Somewhere behind them, the town was waking properly. The bakery shutters, the harbour chain, a dog with opinions. Vera stayed until the last note had fully finished, which took, she noticed, much longer than the moment the bow left the string. At the ruined gate she turned. The old man was already only a shape in the thinning mist, folding his chair. From that distance he might have been any of the trees. She walked home down Miller's Lane with the melody keeping step beside her, and she did not hum it aloud. Some music you carry the way you carry a full cup. But the next year, on the first fog of autumn, there were 2 chairs in the clearing. And the year after that, a bench. The orchard had been listening. It always had been. And the town slept better for it.